first felt the urge to vomit around 3 in the afternoon. I hurried into the bathroom, stood poised over the loo, and lost my paneer tikka. I lifted my nightie as soon as I realized I was also spurting from the other end. The floor was covered with orange, golden, ochre color diarrhea. This little bum wash thing, I was able to wash it all down. This activity was repeated many times for hours. I was no longer vomiting anything, but I had the dry heaves, but the diarrhea never stopped. It always came. By now, Deva was here, and a couple of the men from the hotel. My last bout, I ran. Imagine this floor, these slippers, this rug. I didn't make it. This was all covered with diarrhea, too, before I ever even got in there. It was decided that I had to go to the hospital. No way was I going to go in one of those auto rickshaws with the traffic and everything. So an ambulance was called. And I went in this little white car with the blinking lights and the beeper and the hard plastic, worn little cotty thing. And Deva came along in the ambulance. When we got to the hospital and I got out of the ambulance, standing on the sidewalk in front of the hospital, I had another dry heave and diarrhea just was streaming down my nightie and my legs on the street, standing on the street, going all over my shoes. Well, it was a pretty humbling experience. I was put into ICU and spent the night there. And the next night, all kinds of tests were given, and it was decided that I had food poisoning. The diarrhea didn't stop for 3 days. I constantly was having my diapers changed, and by the time 3 days had gone by, I was now in the hospital in a special room, and a deluxe room. It's not quite like what I have at the hotel, at the executive room, but I'm always going in class, aren't I? I know that there are states that are less evolved than Gujarat, but the state of hospitals here has got to be 100 years behind what we have at home. For instance, this is the IV apparatus. Extremely painful every time it was used, which was constantly. Always being tweaked and pushed and prodded. The diarrhea continued for days, surging forth, filling the diaper, like waves in the Indian Ocean. And I steadily got weaker and weaker. No food was permitted. The theory being that the diarrhea had to exhaust itself. I was exhausted. It had to burn itself out because my body was purifying itself. I can't imagine going through this without Deva. The first night I was in a private room, she spent the night. She slept on a little cot. Plus, she could communicate with them. There was hardly any English spoken or understood. They didn't know what a bedpan was. I didn't know the Gujarati for bedpan. What was I going to do? Well, the diaper. Bedpan is definitely a word that should be included in the glossary of travel books. Yeah, right.